So yesterday we had a call, and I'll talk about this later. All right. Good morning, everybody. We're now live streaming out there on YouTube. And for everybody who's joining us on Zoom, good morning. I'm looking at the attendee list, and I see some new names, and I see some familiar names. I love it. Welcome, everybody. Thank you for coming to Morning Coffee Review. I'm Jason Artley, joined here with Michael Achabe. How you doing, buddy?
I'm doing good. We are going to kick off today talking about stamps, and also we didn't throw in there, but the batch sign and seal, I think, was one of the topics as well. Let's talk a little bit about ourselves. I'm a Bluebeam certified instructor, as well as Mr. Jason Artley, and Bluebeam certified support representatives as well.
And certified users too, right?
Because we had to become a user. Yeah. We are here to talk about all things Bluebeam. We do have a topic. So for all those new folks that are joining us today, feel free to ask any questions along the way. This time is for you, the community. There will be the side chat. So if we can't answer it right away, the lovely community here always loves to answer questions as well. So feel free to use the chat. We will answer what we can as we go along. But we'll start off with stamps today. Anything else to add?
That's about it. We're going to be here for the next hour. And this topic that we've chosen certainly isn't going to take a whole hour. So by all means, whatever questions you have, they don't even have to be related to stamps. What have you guys been working on? What sort of things have you run into that might be causing a little bit of, trickiness or whatever? We're happy to dive in and figure out what we can do. But today we brought up stamps because it always comes up. It's one of those topics that you overlook because it seems simple, but it's really not. There's so many different things going on that we can really harness the power of stamps. And I've gone down the YouTube rabbit hole and I've watched some of those videos that I've seen out there. And it's like, okay, that's cool, but why? And that's neat, but okay, cool. And then that one, okay, but what else can we do with it? And that's what we're here to explore today.
Yeah, dynamics. There are some that you can add JavaScripting to. So if you're well-versed in JavaScripting, you're going to create form buttons for things. So like checkboxes, they have some out of the box that I will throw a link up there soon that we can get access to. But let's just talk about stamps overall. Most commonly one for some of us folks, my background is structural design and a little architectural design. And Jason's is civil. So for us, maybe something that's approved, and those are out of the box here. So in Revu, under the menu bar at the top, you have tools, and from tools, you then have stamps. Now, stamps can be saved as a markup in the tool chest as well, or you can come to the stamps area over here. Now, my stamps is a larger folder set. These will always live here. Unless if you go down to the bottom, which mine is long, you can go to change stamp folder. So these are all of your stamps that are saved in your stamp folder. They are seen as a .pdf extension. That's how Revu sees them. And I will go through and just place my standard approved one. And actually, you know what? Probably today we can mess around with the different blend modes so that we can be more well-informed, because myself and I think Jason, we've always asked these questions, what they do in terms of their blend mode when we're going to create them. So when you're getting ready to place a stamp, you can do one of two things. You can either left click and hold and drag it for the size of the stamp, meaning you're scaling it up to whatever size you want it to be. Or if you just left click and place it. So if I go back to that same stamp, hit approve, left click and just select an area, it's going to place it at its scale that you originally created it at.
Now that trick is underutilized, because what happens when you create a stamp, it's going to ask you for the dimensions. So why would you want to scale it in every time? So that single left click is one of the things that I forget all the time. But that's the trick to get it to show up at the proper size to fit on a title block or whatever else you're doing.
Yeah, because the usual workflow for folks that are engineers or architects and have a license of some sort to seal, and the way to do that would be creating a stamp as your seal with no signature on it. And we all know we're required that you have to have a specific size for those stamps. the seal. So if the seal has a specific size, you don't want to have to scale it up. It should be to scale when you're placing it on whatever document you have. But going back to here, when we are adding these, let's talk about the different blend modes. So currently right now, if I place it, it's going to be over whatever it's going to be on top of, right? Now let's check the different ones that they have available. These will ring true when we go through and create a custom stamp, because right now we're just checking the differences of the blend mode. So I don't have to recreate however many there are here to see the different one. So there's multiply. That looks like it's a screen almost, right?
It does, but multiply seems like a weird, go back to normal. Maybe we're just going to toggle between normal and, yeah, look at that.
It's almost like the screen. Oh, no.
See, screen gets rid of it. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Well, so maybe that's for. Oh.
No, because screen is still light.
Yeah, kind of like Matt said in the chat. Thanks, Matt. It sent it to the back. So can you bring that forward? So if you go find that one again.
Hold on.
Oh, look at you being sneaky.
Yeah, see, even with the black, it is.
So bring order. Bring to front. Okay, so it does send it to the back, but it also screens it. That's why would it do that?
Or why would you want this would be the question too.
Why would you want it screened? Because that makes a pretty good watermark.
So it would be a watermark on your text item for whatever you're placing this onto.
Yeah.
Okay. That would make sense.
That's what I
overlay.
What is that doing?
It's to the front too. Okay, so it is over on top of, or it looks like it is.
I thought I saw, yeah, you can see it kind of ghosting there.
Yeah, see?
That's really odd. And that's what's kind of fun about exploring what some of these blend modes mean, because sometimes like, oh yeah, just leave it on normal, it's good. But like, what do all these things mean? And they're not logical, right? As we've seen already.
Okay. Next one is going to be Darken. So still goes, nope, it's still, text is still shining through from whatever it is. So
yeah, but
it
it's
will
not
be transparent.
It's lighter than it originally was though.
Yep.
Which is interesting.
Which is opposite than Darken, because I thought it would be, so what does lighten do?
Okay. Maybe it
so it's
has
like
to do
the
with
screen. Let's place a couple.
Yeah, like try one that's got color to it, like that booked one that you've got. Because maybe the color has to do a fact. There you go. David would like to see make a copy. So do one normal and then one not normal, or one whatever.
So this is normal.
There we go. I feel like
and this is normal and this is Darken. But when this goes on top of something, so normal and normal, right? And we'll just play with these different colors. So this one was lighten.
Leading it bleed through.
This one was Darken and then lighten. OMG. So
whoa.
This is what I was trying to find. So a client sent me this the other day, but it wasn't, because you can't click by click. So ironically, I haven't had time to find the solution out yet. You can, somebody sent me something that they were able to click around an item and it changed the background color of the line work to a different color. And I haven't been able to find the solution yet, but maybe we have here. So this is the lighten mode where it's still having the context, but it's overriding the color of the actual lines in the document.
So when you had the black approved stamp, it wasn't quite as visible because it was black. So interesting.
Let's go back because darken. Nope. Overlay. Nope. Screen. Screen does the same. Okay. So color dodge.
I've owned a couple Dodges, the different colors. Wait, that's different topic. Okay.
Cars.
Yeah.
Let's see. So color dodge almost does the same thing, kind of. Not really. Okay. Next one, color burn.
Being like dodge and burn, those are tools I've used in Photoshop, and they're a little bit more apparent. I'm surprised by all these different blend modes.
It almost looks like it's sharpening that line too. So let's see. No. Okay. Hard light. So you can't see it over something that's darker. It's almost the same, right, as the original.
Yeah, it's pretty hard to tell. So like,
except for this one.
Yeah. I'd be curious if you were to print any of these. And, obviously we want to use Revu to avoid paper as much as we can. But I wonder if it would be that visible.
Here's soft light.
Yeah. Hard to tell. Then again, I'm overdue for an eye exam. So there's
difference.
That too.
I'm blind. So yeah. Difference. Oh.
Whoa.
So it's inverting.
Oh, is that what it's doing?
So
if you take your black approved and do different, it'll turn it to white.
Yeah, it's like because this wasn't black. The black from out. This is black, okay. Right? So it's like
it's an RGB value probably.
Yeah.
Okay.
Exclusion. Didn't change it.
No difference. So like, there's got to be a reason for it, and it's just kind of silly.
So luminosity here. Changed it to black. Was that because maybe it was normal and then I did that? Nope, still the same. Hue.
You got to be kidding me.
I used to know somebody with the last name Huey. Saturation.
Before you were born, there was a band called Huey Lewis and the News. They had a couple good songs.
So saturation is the same thing as that overriding of that line. Oh man, where did I put the other one? Okay, it's right here. And last one, color.
I don't see a color.
But it's doing the same thing.
Oh, yeah, look at that.
Oh, not really. But over the other stamps, it is.
Yeah. That's really odd. So there's got to be a reason they included all of these things. All these modes are a bit overkill for a PDF file, honestly. But maybe some of these tricks would have been good for our little turkey showdown. Do a little highlight type of things, but
I'm definitely going to be using this.
Do these blend modes, do they only exist in stamps? Have you seen them anywhere else?
I don't think I've seen them anywhere else. No, not yet. So yeah, if we go to stamps and we get ready to create a stamp, so we don't like the ones out of the box, you can always edit any ones that you have created before. So if you just click the little pencil here, it will show you the way to edit it. And I accidentally clicked way down there.
But be careful with this. So couple of reasons. If you change your stamp folder at the bottom, like Michael showed, and it's right there, if you change your stamp folder, if you have it set to a company location, like a server location or anything like that, it will pull up all of the PDF files that it finds in that folder and use them as stamps, which is great for making company standards. But if you start using that pencil icon, you're actually changing what's saved on the server. So be careful where you are.
Good catch. So back to here, you can then create a stamp and you get to name it. So you saw the names there before. Who's the author? So authorship is just the user ID under review. If you go to the menu there, preferences, that's the default name it gives you, which is your user ID for Windows default. You can change it if you wanted to. Template. So do you want to start off with text in the center of your stamp, text with a border around it, or text with date and border? So date would be a dynamic box. So when it's placed, it's going to put the actual today's date. And then the text with rounded border. We'll do this one. You can always change the size if you wanted to. But like Jason was saying earlier, if you don't want to scale it, you just want to left click and place it. What is it going to do and how is that going to work? It'll be the actual size of what that markup is. And we just covered all of these blend modes. And that's why we did it up here. So I don't have to click it and create all of these different ones and what they're going to be doing for those. What's the opacity of it? Rotation, font color, and our line color. I'm not going to do typical. There we go. So now here's our stamp. We have our round border, like it said, with text. And we selected the black text. Now, if we want to have any dynamic fields where things are going to auto input some data, you're going to use the text box. And when you get ready to place your text box, you will have dynamic populate underneath. And this is where fields will be automatically populated, like user, the day, the hour, the seconds. So once that stamp is placed, all of this will autofill.
That dynamic text functionality is only available in a stamp, correct?
Correct. Yep.
There's no other way to do this. So if you're looking for one of those ways to include that information.
Hold on. There are some headers and footers that have
that's true.
Remember? Yeah.
That's true. But what we see normally, like from CAD users, is they've done like a diesel string in to have their file path, for example.
Yep.
You can do the same thing here with review.
Yes. But it's a name of the PDF. So just remember that in your extension of file. Without the extension, you just use this one. So we can go through, and the user would be, again, that user that you had for preferences. We'll just put the year first. So we'll do 2 digits. And then this is how it's going to write it out. And you can have the same thing as you go forward, right? So I can do slash, and then I can go to my months, and then slash, and go through my day.
You're doing it the Euro way.
I'm doing it the way that I know that I used to when I was saving files, because this would always change. And then this, and then this.
That's true. That's logical. I like it.
And we can change the size, change it to black. That was not all the text. That was the new text. You can center it. So style, if you wanted to center the text, left, bold, however you want to go through and do this is the way to go. Yeah, I could go back and change that, but let me place it here. And oops. You can move this up.
So it seems like difficult coding, but it's pretty easy to figure out. So
yes.
The question is, can you type in that code without having to enter in from dynamic? If you put ampersand, bracket, whatever.
I haven't tried it. You probably try it and it may work. For what those are, because that's just like the JavaScript code that you're going to be utilizing. What happens when it exceeds the box? It doesn't because well, I guess it would be for the extension, like your file extension would probably be the only one because these are set because it's 2 digits as it's
For
shown
username.
here.
Username or path would probably be extend the box.
Yeah, it would return. So anything that doesn't or does exceed past, it returns, usually is what happens.
Good question.
And then you can do save as. Ooh, mine's stamp 1 because anyways, so out of the box, you have it stored. Can everybody see this file path here?
The program data, Bluebeam software.
For some reason, sometimes you can't see this in a Zoom meeting. But anyways, from here, you can go to C. This is where it's natively saved. So it's under your user ID, documents, Bluebeam review. It's C drive, program data, Bluebeam software, Bluebeam review, 20 stamps. So the addition of what it is. And actually, ironically, I've been getting folks asking questions about 21 lately. When's 21 coming out? So let me rehash that kind of. When is review 21 coming out? It's not 2021. So be aware of that. That review is no longer year locked. They made that announcement in the edition of review 20. So it's review 2019. And then review 20 came out and it wasn't 2020. So, I mean, it came out in the year of 2020, but they didn't announce it as 2020. It's review edition 20. So be aware that review, the only way to get these great updates, it's not year locked. It's by feature updates and it's maintenance. So where you could have said, oh, I'm just going to rebuy a new one every year, you could have had maintenance, which is cheaper anyways. And then that way you're able to get the newest updates, and they're producing feature updates to give all end users these new updates in between, like the changing of the dimensions where you can have different units. So don't think of review being released every year. That is not their mindset, Bluebeam's mindset anymore. So just be aware of that. Now, this is where they save them. So in the review 20 stamps, and this is the default folder for that. And I'm just going to hit save. I'm hoping, yeah, that's fine. Now, again, it's seen as a .pdf extension. So if you wanted to save it on your desktop, share it. All the other folks could resave it into their normal location on wherever their folder is. I'm just going to hit the exits because now I can go to tools, stamps, and I will be able to, I wish, so maybe that is one of those. If you ever want a wishful think item, you can go to help and make a suggestion. My thing here would be, I have so many stamps. Can I just scroll wheel down instead of having to go down and hit this button?
I don't know that I have that many stamps that I've ever had to do the scrolly wheel. Yeah,
yes.
I don't have that many. So interesting.
I just do a lot of demos and people ask about making custom stamps. So if I go and click this one, and again, like we were talking about earlier, if you just left click, it's the scale of what it was created at. And then there's my data.
That 4 inch by 1 inch stamp. And that is pretty cool. I like it.
Yes. Or the search at the top.
Well, like to search for a different stamp. Now, one of the things that you did, which is what I always do, which I know it's a bad habit, and that's you created a stamp 1.
Yep.
You forgot to name it something else. So how would you rename your stamp? Because if you go to the pencil icon, you can't do that. So you might as well show that little trick.
Rename your stamp and do it from the pencil icon, you're saying?
You can't do it from the pencil icon. So how you have a stamp 1. If you wanted to fix that, what do?
Can you rename it from here? No, you can't.
You got to go into the actual stamp folder and rename.
Oh, you're saying the folder. I thought there was a quicker way than the stamp folder.
Not that I know of.
Oh, okay.
If you know, that'd be great. Yeah, because like you can't change the name there, can you?
Yeah.
But that's something I always do. Ooh, document properties. Ooh. Oh, let's see. Hop up to document properties and see if you can change it there.
So that was here. I mean, if you're in here,
That's just a
a
title.
stamp.
That's not file name. Interesting. What is it? Control P for document properties.
Oh, David's saying Control P. So if I select it from here,
Go back to your stamp one.
That's print.
Oh, what is it then? It's Control D. Sorry. Control D for document properties. Yeah, there's no way to change the name there.
Yeah.
Good suggestion. That's what we do here, though. Let's go down rabbit holes and figure things out.
Still stamp, yeah.
Okay. So yeah, you got to go into the actual folder and rename it. And then if you rename it, it will show up differently in your stamp dropdown.
Okay. So going there and changing it is what you would want to do. Next one is when you place your stamps, you can flatten them individually. So you don't have to flatten your whole document of PDFs. Now, this is just making the markups become one with the PDF, right? And I always recommend whenever I'm sending out PDFs that have revisions that I do want to flatten, having one that does have markup recovery. So if you flatten them, you can go down to here and you can say allow markup recovery. So it'll allow you to unflatten them. If you decheck that, there's no way to remove those markups that were made on the PDF. They become one. So my analogy is always, that iron-on, like an iron-on branding to a shirt. You're ironing it and making it part of the shirt. And you don't have that chance of washing it and it being removed. But you do if you have this part right here. Okay. Is that a good analogy?
Yeah, that's a good analogy. I was going to say a permanent marker versus a dry erase marker, or pen versus pencil or whatever. You can always undo it. I don't know.
Yeah.
If I flatten something and I send it to you, can you unflatten it? Anybody can unflatten?
Only if that one is selected, I believe. Because if I flatten it here, that's not allowing for recovery, right? Let's see.
Right.
It is, but if you do it, is that because the flatten settings are this? So
no, but if I were to be the one to unflatten it, is that flattening tied to your username?
You can't unflatten it if you have that button deselected. So
interesting.
See, I can't even come in and flatten it.
So Beth has a question.
Control Z.
Since we're talking about flattening,
can't Control Z.
And we're kind of flattening and a little deviation from the stamps, but that's fine. We're flattening because we're testing the stamp here. And Beth has a question. Have you ever had issues with after flattening that partially transparent markups? So even a stamp here that we tried those different blend modes, they became opaque and started covering up content.
Yeah. That's because it's becoming part of that encoding of what it was on top of the PDF. Now, we can check if that doesn't happen with the screen. Well, let's not use screen. Let's use...
It was multiply, wasn't it? That did the
multiply, yeah.
They gave it a little bit of a no?
Well, let's just do this one. So if I flatten this one, so it didn't overwrite.
That's also potentially one of those, hey, I made it in Bluebeam and I opened it in Adobe and it works fine here, but it doesn't work fine on other PDF programs. Could be. Well, that's a cool highlight. Weird. Yeah.
So let me flatten this. Yeah, it's not.
Interesting. So Beth, I think that might be someone opening up in not Bluebeam Revu, potentially.
Yeah, I would want to see. So we'd have to find out the real issue. So was it their machine? Was it how it was flattened?
Yeah.
Remember, Revu follows the ISO standard. So if the other software follows that standard, it should be following that same method. And if you flatten, by the way, a hyperlink, it's no longer, or an action, it's no longer the little thunderbolt that you click. You can click the actual area for it to move. And that's more, sorry, an action, not a hyperlink, because hyperlinks already are like that.
Magical.
Okay. But going back to here, let's talk about, do you want to send them the extensions? I don't think I have it saved.
I've already got it ready to rock. I was saving it and I was waiting for you to mention it. That way I could put it here in the chat. Let me set this to everyone. So in the chat, I put a link to a web browser that goes to a very hard to find link on bluebeam.com.
Yeah, because I don't think I have it saved. No, because
save it. Boom.
Did you reset my settings?
Note, did you know that Review had a web tab?
Yes.
It's awesome.
Under Windows, and it is under web tab or Control T.
So if you go to that extension where you were,
was I there? Let's see.
You were there and then you lost it. There we go. So Bluebeam created a bunch of great content and they're just putting it out there. And some of those things are stamps. But these stamps, go back up. Those stamps are kind of boring, like confidential draft progress. That's just giving you an idea of what's possible. But when you go down, oh, look at all this cool stuff. Interactive. Those are cool.
So just be aware, I've gone down the rabbit hole trying to modify these. So if you do, like I did, you have to have extreme, because in order to get into the JavaScripting behind it, that is an extreme version only. So if I go and place one that I've clicked on and downloaded, like this assigned discipline here, if I click this, it's going to give you a JavaScripting window. Now, this is the part where it's dynamic, where you get to select different items and then it populates it in the stamp. So if I went into here and said it's going to be, I'll just do mechanical, checked by the date, hit OK, and that data fills into the stamp location here. Now you can go in and modify your company name and logo here. The harder part, and where I've always failed, is the renaming of these, right? Because this is tied to what's filling in the data here. So let me kind of break that down and compact it to you on what that means. So if I go in and edit the stamp, I'm going to see these fields here, and these fields are being assigned under my forms. So if I go in and click forms here, I'm going to see this. So this is named by this location here, and this is being filled out by that JavaScript window that's being populated. So these are just form fields, and under here, under tools, forms, JavaScript, this is the JavaScripting window that's controlling those. So yes parameters, no parameters of your selection of the specific script that's selecting the form infield of the data. So, right, if you're saying discipline, so if you go and you look at your list group discipline here, what this is talking through is your list items, and what list items in your list box, which is this is creating a list box, and what are those items of selection here. So you have your yes, no parameters for, oh, it's going to be process, which is the automatically one selected first, -1 for just being a selection, piping, mechanical, civil, electrical, instruments. So these are your options here. And I've gone through and tried modifying and changing some of these, and it hasn't really worked that well. What you can do is change like this text, right? So your logo can be in here, and you need to get out of the forms because it's just going to want you to select forms, but you can come in here and change your logo. You can add a different color. This part here where you're changing the name of where the form is being instructed to change by the JavaScripting data is a little bit more complex. So just be aware of that.
Can be tricky, but they're like that thing, like that company name and logo. That's just begging for you to edit it, right?
Yeah.
So do what you can there. David has a great question. As usual. Thanks, David. So this kind of goes back to that dynamic thing that you put in there for the date. And is that date sticky from the time it was applied or from the time that the PDF was opened? So if you place this stamp and there's that date box, maybe not this one. So whenever you stamp things, I believe it goes the time it was applied, and it will not be dynamic.
It's when it's selected to be placed.
It doesn't open. It doesn't update on opening. Was a follow-up question.
No,
I don't believe it does.
I believe it's when it's selected, because that's when it's pulling the data. So when it is selected, meaning placed.
From there, not actually clicked on.
Yeah. So when it is placed like that, that's when it's pulling the date.
Can you go back and edit your Michael stamp there and hit that pencil icon? Our buddy Matt Lynn has a question. He wants to know, did the dynamic input have both options for date? So you put it in here, year, month, date. Is there an option for the 4-digit year? There sure is.
So let's go to minutes and seconds, and this will determine.
That's there you go.
So is it from the minutes and seconds when I'm going to select it? So we'll give it in the round of once this hits 30, I will place it, meaning select it. So is it at the 30 almost, or is it after that? So is it when I click it from the box here? So right now I'm going to go in, and is it closer to 30? If not, I'm going to wait a couple more seconds before I place it. And if it's past that 30 marker, then it's when I click it to place it.
Let's see what you got going on here. 43. So yeah. As soon as it's placed. Is when it's locking in that time.
Yeah.
Now, one thing I was messing around with these stamps a couple weeks ago, and the hour is military time. It's the 24-hour format. I haven't found a way to do a 12-hour AM PM.
Ooh, like the convenience store?
I haven't seen one of those in a long time. So that's a down south thing, I think.
I wonder if the reason for that is that it's multi.
Oh, it could be. Well, because language US, because I know we use more AM PM here than some of the Euro countries. Interesting. There's so many settings in here. Oh, while you're in here, can you pop over to the General tab and go to per username? So earlier when Michael was creating those stamps and they had the user, you can change that to anything you want. So I normally put my full name, Jason Artley, and then I put ATG in parentheses. So if I am collaborating with somebody, they know who this guy Jason is, right? So if you change that username and you have a stamp that has a dynamic field looking for username, it will put in whatever's there.
And that was a good thing, Chris, saying that mine's not on military time. So maybe it is pulling from some kind of Windows setting that is military driven, just like the date and time. I'll have to drill into that and figure out where it's pulling that.
Maybe that's a JavaScript thing.
Yeah. Because that was minutes and seconds and it was doing 07. And I'm guessing it doesn't go to like 12 because it's not showing a PM, right?
Right.
Okay. But going back to our assigned area, so you have these, and this one was also from that location here. The tab here. Oh, it's right here. So that's this one right here. And they have other ones like company logo for your submittal review, your engineering review, company logo here. It's asking for some additional information that you can go in and play. So again, like Jason was saying, they are asking you to change some of that stuff so it can be more centric around your firm.
Check
But
boxes is really cool.
sorry,
The check boxes are really cool.
Mhm.
On that engineering review one, or even a submittal review.
Yeah.
JavaScript pops up and asks you to check the box.
And that one I have right here. And those are just checks as well. So you can create check boxes for these. And that's all this is.
Oh, look at that with the hello world new disclaimer. Please steal. So clever. David's got a question. Can you go back and show you where you added that dynamic text?
Yeah, so it's any text that you selected in your when you double click into it or you place a new text, you have dynamic here.
So you've got all those little options there. There's some good stuff. I really like the 3-month or the 3-letter abbreviation for month.
Mm-hmm. And this is, we were talking about it earlier. So if I go to headers and footers, you
Headers and
have
footers
this
in a stamp?
file. Well, no.
Okay.
Well, yeah, I mean, I'm in a stamp, but it's showing it for my document one. It's not, it's doing, oh, it is doing the stamp one here. But this also has the file name, path, the same kind of thing, but a little bit more like subject, project, revisor, right? So you have all of these additional ones, but that's what that one question was that you were saying earlier was, is there anywhere else that has something similar? There are something similar here, like file name, right? And then it'll give it that at the top, which is, I don't even know if it's going to fit in there. So, but this is also the additional one that you have for those items.
Also kind of weird that it shows up in a different code, right? Because it was showing in the caret brackets.
Yeah.
Is that what you call them? The greater than, less than brackets, instead of the ampersand blocky brackets.
Mm-hmm.
How's that for a technical term?
That was great. Or nope, you were right with all of it. So I was going to say a different one, but it's a completely different type for coding. But great. Those are what we have available. Yes, I highlighted everything. And those checkboxes are the same thing in here. So if I go to my stamp on what that was, I edit it. They're right here. So you have a status, which then gives those selections of what it's going to do for all of these checkboxes here.
So it's a form that's applying the checkbox, and then it's a JavaScript that's applying the pop-up that asks you to do what it's going to do.
Yep, exactly. So these point to this, and these are selected once the window populates. And I believe it's the error message because this is saying select a status for me since there's nothing selected. That's why it's popping up, but I'm no Java expert yet. So
this is a good question from David. So a few months ago, a couple months ago, we did an episode on forms, and part of that question, it might have been you, David, hopefully it was, they asked the question, can we harvest that data after it's been assigned? So same thing. If we had a stamp that had a form in it, or it had a checkbox, is there a way to harvest that data so we would know, hey, but nothing's inserted? What if you go check that box, though?
These are inserted.
Oh, that is checkbox. Okay.
I believe it's probably because these are their own PDFs seen as, right? Stacked on top. So there is no data that's enriched in here. It's only in here.
Yeah, it looks like, no, you cannot harvest the data that's entered into a stamp. Good question. See,
you
that's
can from a native form. Yeah. So like from here, and we went through that on one of our morning coffee reviews as well. If I type something in here, right, I can get the data from here as well. Export
that data.
Yeah.
Get it going. And there's another file format. You don't have to do FBF. It can be CSV. There we go.
Or
Take that right to it.
XML. And someone asked a question, what's the difference between CSV or XML? It was like the file format.
Well, all three
What's
letters
readable?
are different. Duh. No. CSV for Excel, FDF for I don't know, and XML can open in a whole bunch of things.
Yeah.
Ooh, okay. Yeah, David was trying to think how we could use physical stamps on paper copies in our invoice approval process. And then how could we take that to review? You'd probably just want to use straight up forms for that and not a stamp with a form.
Yeah. If you're trying to just get the data enrichment, otherwise you can just create a custom stamp in here. So you could also do the stamp where you are grabbing it from, if you did a physical stamp, you could scan it in and you can still create a stamp with a cutout. So you can do like a snapshot, right? So you can go through and do a snapshot. Let's just say this was stamped on there. Grab this snapshot of the content and then place that in your stamp. So if you're trying to have something that's exactly the same, you could do that as well. But back into signing and sealing. So if I want to place a seal here, now to each their own, right? So if you want to, you can go through and you can go and place your seal. I messed up these seals, but this is their seal. And you would never do this. This size is just not correct for this one. I'm going to scale it down. But you would never do that because it would be to the correct size when you're placing it, right? Jason?
There's legal things for implications for that.
Yeah. So from here, you would never do that. I'm just doing it so it fits in this location. So from here, you can do one of two things. You can then flatten this and it becomes part of the document, right? But the thing is, that's fine because the seal. What really matters also is my signature, right? So stamp, I always suggest having your seal as a stamp. Now, this is where it comes to you to decide on how you want to sign it. Now, you can do one of two things. You can create an additional stamp that is just your signature, right? So if I go down and look for my signature, you can all yell at me for my weird signature. There we go, right? There's my signature, and then I could flatten this. Again, teach their own. It's how you want to do this. Just be aware that people can come and get snapshots, remove it. They could do, but again, people could do that with any document as long as they allow it to be editable. And you can set up security. We did a whole item on security, or you can use this batch sign and seal, which is an extreme version only. The secondary one would be creating a signature location with the signature on it. So you're coming into here and you're going to do this. This is where my signature is going to be placed. So when I'm getting ready to be done, I can click this, log in, and have my own custom signature here. Oops. There it is. So that it's password protected, can't be snapshotted, can't be copied. Or this is kind of the same thing when you're going to the batch sign and seal. So this is a extreme version only. And you can come in here and say, yes. Oh man, I just did it again. So don't just say yes because I overwrit that document because it asked me to sign it. So please read instructions as it goes along. I'm going to hit next.
Glad I'm not the only one.
I always remember to do it, and sometimes I don't. And now I'm gonna have to go back and remember that I have this as it's going to create an encoding item behind it. So now I have to redo all my things. But back into here, so this is my signature. So this is the digital signature part that we saw earlier that I was doing the single sign. But this is going to do it for all pages. So I can scroll in over to here, and I'm going to apply my signature here. So then I can go down and select my custom signature that I had for it, whichever one I want to use. There it is. Great. But I also need the seal. So you have the seal down here. You can select the seal, and this is just your PDFs, right? So your stamps, PDFs, stamps. This is going to be up here as well. I can bring this down, and you can also in here rescale it if you needed to, which we would never do because it would be to scale, but I'm just giving you an example. And there we go right here. Okay. So as I'm going through and doing this, and as you noticed here, this was done earlier because this was not for being drawn on. So I'll place these over here so you can just see it. And this will go through and do this for all the desired pages that you want. So when you're getting ready to hit done, it'll say page what, or did you want all of them? And you can go through and do all of them or specific ones. And then you also have this date feature. So if you wanted to place a date, you have your formats for date here, which is way more than what we had before. But you have your date formatting as well. And you just have to go up here and select where you want the date to be placed later on, like down here. Now you can't rotate it though, which is unfortunate.
That's where your seal already had that dynamic date placed in there. You might want to not put that in your thing. Matt's got a question. If we're going that route, so it's kind of backing up before you started doing the batch, sign, and seal, which is combining both of those features. Would it make sense to make a stamp that already had your seal and your signature in it at the same time?
That's up to you and your security on how you feel about having that. That's when it comes down to that decision. So are you comfortable with having your signature on a seal being just saved on the network where anyone can get access to it? If it doesn't matter to you and you don't care if someone comes and does a snapshot of all of that, then yeah, that's going to be the easiest, quickest way. So that is your decision to make.
Also, looking at the stamp that you've got there, that blend mode could come in handy here because it might be able to look more like a pen on paper if you had that set to multiply where it was a little bit see-through.
Yeah.
Maybe that's a trick to why that some of those blend modes exist, to make it easier to replicate the actual wet stamp, wet signature look.
So there are a couple ways. These are the processes on which you can go about it. So if you do not have extreme, which I always highly recommend, because that batch sign and seal is going to stamp it and sign it same area on every single document. So hopefully your title blocks are correct in the same location, because it's going to go in the same location on every page. Or you can go through and you don't have extreme. You can do a signature box and do the same thing. And we did a whole morning coffee review on how to create a new appearance, because this is default for your digital signatures. You can come in here and create a new one, and you can customize the way you want it to look. And the only people that can get access to these under your appearances is your specific user ID.
Digital ID, which is that follows a different protocol, right? Isn't it some sort of Microsoft protocol there?
Yeah, and your document certify, either one, you have both of them at your disposal.
Can you show how to create a signature box again for non-extreme users? So you don't need extreme to make a digital signature. You just need extreme to do all the sign and signature on multiple files and pages at once.
So be aware of this, because if you create a box, you can't delete it unless you have extreme, which we found out. So you don't get forms unless you have an extreme. So I can't come in here and delete it after I've made it if you made it in the wrong spot. So just be wary. That is one thing. But you can come into here under tools, signature, and you have sign. So you can come into here and create a signature box. So I just left click and held to drag the area of selection for me to place my signature. And now that is always there. And I can come in and certify it as my sign. Just be aware.
Careful with that one.
Yeah.
If you don't have extreme, you won't be able to get rid of that box once you place it. You can move it. No, you can't. You're stuck.
No, you can't. Yeah, you're stuck. That's why I always recommend one version of extreme.
Ooh, here's a good question. Thanks, Lee. How do you figure out which version of review that you have?
Top left under review, about, and it's telling you your edition.
It'll say standard, CAD, or extreme. And then there's also the version, which will show you if you're on the latest version.
Yep.
20.2.60. Very cool. So let's show another trick. If you wanted to apply a stamp to all the pages at the same time in the same location, but you didn't have extreme, what would you do?
So you can do that. And by the way, they added new additional ones, and I forget which update it was. I think it was 19. When you go in and place a stamp, you have we'll just grab one that's right here, like booked. Oops, that one's flattened. So if you want this approved on all pages,
You can put a little rotation on there. Look at you.
and maybe a little more. There we go.
It's approved so much that you can't even see what the plans are. I love it.
So these plan sets are approved, and I want it on all pages. I can select the approved, right click, and you have apply to pages.
So a little hidden trick. If you're trying to stamp multiple pages at one time and you don't have extreme, this is a trick to do it.
And they updated this. So it used to only be like custom and all. Now you can do even, odds, landscape, portrait. The only thing is when you hit OK, it doesn't show you that it did it. You just have to know that it did it. So if you had the thumbnails open, you could see it.
Oh, see, that's a good trick. I would have just started flipping through pages, but you were thinking ahead and you went to thumbnails. I like it.
And you can apply a stamp from here too. So under thumbnails, you can apply a stamp as well.
And if you choose that, does it go to all pages?
So this is just going to do
all pages.
Yeah. And you get to pick which one you want.
So it's another way to apply.
Nodes. Yeah. But it's only in a quadrant too. So your quadrant is where it's going to be.
It is a little tricky. I like it. Well, we're getting close to wrapping this thing up for today, our December 7th session. I want to thank everybody for joining us. Any last questions? Any questions out there on YouTube land?
Thanks, Matt. Thanks, Justin.
This is always fun for us, and I'm glad that you guys are having fun too. Remember, bring your questions. We're doing this every week, and we don't plan on stopping anytime soon. So if you got something that comes up, feel free to drop us a line. And when we wrap up today, there's going to be a survey that's going to pop up, and this is key because it's kind of segueing into next week. When you do that survey, it's going to ask you like, hey, did we do good? Did we screw up? Or what topics would you want us to hear or talk about next time? And that's what we're going to be talking about next week. Is some of these questions that have popped in over the past few months are hard to answer just randomly. So we're going to do a question and answer episode next week. So join in for that.
Yes. So to add to that, you were saying that we're going to be doing this next week. So feel free to add into that area because we'll bring those. We have some ones from way back in the day that we may not have answered yet. And we're going to bring them up in our next week's session. And Jason and I will be together, hopefully in the same room as we do this. So
That's
any
never
questions?
Before.
Yeah.
It'd be fun.
Oh, yeah. I guess you're right. I mean, we were at a same location where we filmed, but we never gone live together on the screen.
Oh, a couple good questions before we wrap up here. One from Marvin here. Can stamps be added to tool sets? Absolutely. And then also we got one that's going to need a little bit of experimentation. You see that question from Brandon?
Oh, so Brandon's saying that you can delete them. So I would test it. That is, you'd have to reselect. And I didn't think about that. It seems like kind of a hack. You just have to reselect the signature, so the signed document.
Right. I can tell if you're reading or you froze up. I think you froze up. You're not blinking. You can remove a signature box or move it
part, and it allows you to select and edit the box. So did my voice catch up?
Yeah, there you go. Now you're back.
I'm here now. Okay. So sounds like a little hack. which I was unaware of, but if you reselect it, you get back into it. So you can add new ones, I'm guessing, and still be in it. And can you move them though? It did it when I first selected it. So if I hit escape again, but I have a full version of review, so I can still come in and select these. Yeah. I guess you could select this. Nope. Nope. You have to be in that first edition of it. And then there you go. So I don't know if this works for everyone that has non-extreme. Yeah, check it out. So
does Control Z work to remove it?
After you've placed it, yeah, but you'd have to Control Z out of everything that you've done too.
Okay.
Yeah, because see, it's still here. I'd have to go all the way back to the original origin.
Oh, he's talking the signatures panel on the left side, which you do not have visible. Oh, yeah. But yeah, you have a signature there. It doesn't show up. Interesting.
It's only, I think, if I log in. But you have the delete, but some don't have the signatures panel either, though. That's the thing, too, for versions. So be aware of that.
Very interesting.
Yeah.
Well, that takes us over time today. Thanks, everybody, for joining us. Sincerely, be safe out there. We'll see you next week, Tuesday, 8:30 Central. And as always, thanks, everybody out there on YouTube land for joining us. Even if you're in the future. Hi, future people watching this on YouTube.
Agreed. Thanks, everyone. And we look forward to seeing you all next week.
Take care.